All right, we are at chapter 4 of Sugar Hill. Once again, my raggedy book. So, of course, the last part of chapter 3 was short because I only had a page and a half to go. So, that was when they had killed the natives, and now they just kind of having sex all over the place. They don't really love each other. They just getting getting off at this point. um, so, chapter 4. They had been traveling all morning over a plain without resting. The journey was becoming easier, and Marie complained very little, which surprised and pleased Flambe. I'm surprised too. She was a big complainer. He stopped and sniffed the air. Hold the donkey reins, she commanded, handing them to her. Then he climbed a large fiddlewood tree, lifted himself high on the branches, and sat in the crotch, sucking air through his nostrils. The pirate's face broke into a wide grin. I smell the sea, he rejoiced. I smell the sea. Marie sniffed the air but couldn't smell anything. Flambe jumped from the tree and landed next to her. He picked the young prostitute with the W up by the waist and swung her around. It's the sea! The sea! No woman ever smelled so good. Come, let's move quickly. Flambe, Marie whined. We've had no rest and nothing to eat. Who can rest or eat with the sea so close? Come, come. Flambe ran ahead through the high grass, his arms outstretched as if he were running to the arms of a waiting lover. Marie grumbled and grabbed the reins, pulling the unwilling donkey she had christened Moses, and dutifully followed the pirate. The going was slow, for the molasses grass was thick and waist high in most places. Marie's legs were scratched. Her skirt and petticoats were little more than rags hanging around her waist. She contemplated climbing on Moses' back and felt very sorry for the beast. It had been through a good deal or more. I guess you would I guess you would have liked it just fine if we had left you in Port Royal, she said, patting the animal on the flank. The grass became sparser and the walking easier. Marie was pleased that her feet no longer pained. Indeed, they had not since the night Flambe had concocted his healing foot soak. She wondered at him. She wondered at the man. Where in England had he come from, and why? He was more educated than most men she had met, not just in book learning. He had a knowledge of nature, the gift of life. Now that they were near the journey's end, it was harder than ever for Marie to keep from thinking about Ben. Their relationship had been so brief, so casual, and yet there had been something between them beyond sex. I think is that Ben cared. Flambe, he doesn't care. He just trying to get what he wants, and that's it. Now that they were, I'm sorry, where am I? Lost my spot. So Marie was no sentimental fool. At the same time, she had never given up the hope of one day meeting a man who would treat her as something more than a prostitute with a W. Ben had been the man. and now he was gone. Would there ever be another? Flambe glanced over his shoulder. Marie was still in sight. Hurry, hurry, he encouraged. The smell of the sea was more intense now. Flambe scrambled up the side of the rock. He stood on his tip and stretched to his full height, shadowing his eyes with the flat of his hand. He peered into the distance. There, winking at him like a half-open eye of blue, was the Caribbean. He jumped into the air and clicked his heels together, slapping his own cheeks. Son of a beep. The horizon blurred and Flambe realized he was crying. Sentimental old fool, he muttered and climbed down from the rock. Marie saw him jumping up and down in the distance and could not help smiling. It was a side of Flambe she had not seen before, and she liked what she saw. She gave Moses's backside a firm but loving smack, and the donkey broke into a trotting run. Everybody's happy. Lifting what was left of her skirts, Marie followed it. She was only 15 feet away from Flambe when a sharp pain struck her ankle. Marie stopped and cried out, "Oh my gosh." Flambe, who had been watching her run toward him, saw her turn deathly white. "What is it?" he cried out. Marie looked down. Slithering through the grass was a gallywasp, a poisonous lizard 2 feet in length. "What is it, Marie?" "Gallywasp." She groaned and pointed towards her ankle. Already, her flesh was beginning to swell. Flambe helped her lie down and grabbed a large stone. "Which way did it go, Marie?" "I must kill it. If the gallywasp reaches the water before you do, you'll die." That sounds like superstition. Marie pointed weakly to her left. Flambe rushed through the molasses grass and saw the tail end of the lizard as it disappeared into a pile of rocks. He began kicking away the rocks until the lizard was exposed. Then he brought the rock down with all his force on the reptile's head. Blood oozed from its wounds, but still it did not die. He brought the rock down again and again until at last the lizard's tail stopped twitching and it was dead. Upon running back to Marie, he found her eyes rolled back in her head and her breath was coming in tiny ragged gasps. "I killed it, Marie, I killed it." He knelt down beside her and ripped off a shred of her dress. Using a twig as a tourniquet, he tied the length tightly below her knee. Her ankle was almost double in size, and the wound was oozing poison. Flambe took the tip of the machete and opened the wound with two sharp X's. Then he bent over and placed his lips over them to suck out the poison. The lizard had bitten deep and had deposited a lot of poison into Marie. Flambe spat and sucked again, drawing the venom from her injured ankle. When he was at last satisfied with his work, he rinsed his mouth with water from the clay pot and then said to Marie, "Marie, can you hear me?" "Yes," she said faintly. "Don't leave me, Flambe. Please don't leave me here to die." "I must leave you for a short time. I must find a wood of life tree." Now that sounds crazy. A wood of life tree, really? Okay, whatever. We're gonna have to we're gonna have to look that one up. Wood of life. This is some 1970s I did all my research with a little bit of myth added to it. Don't leave me, Flambe. The pirate captain rushed through the grass toward his right, where a small forest lay in the distance. His eyes searched for lignum vitae. I don't know what that is. Lignum vitae is, it looked like it's Latin. A distinctive small tree crowned with glossy dark leaves. Well, I guess that's what it is. Context clues. Dang that woman. I could have been to the sea by now. He stopped for a moment and contemplated leaving Marie behind. Why do you think he didn't? After all, she had been nothing but trouble since the beginning of the cross-country trek. Then he frowned and cursed himself for being so unfeeling. Is that what being a pirate had done to him? He looked once again, but saw nothing of the tree he sought. So maybe once upon a time he was a man who had a heart, and then he became a pirate. That's probably why he's so smart, because he's too busy stealing from other people. Anyways, Flambe jumped off the stump and hurried to the edge of the forest with his eyes darting left and right, hoping to find quickly what he was looking for. The interior of the small forest was cool, a sweet relief from the scorching plain. He leaned against the trunk of a gumwood tree and wiped the sweat out of his eyes with the back of his hand. Then he scanned the dark forest once again. There had to be one. There had to be. He rushed on head first, unmindful of the underbrush, tearing at his breeches and scratching his legs until he tripped over the root and was sent sprawling to the forest floor. Thunderation! What is that? The breath had been knocked out of him. He lay on the ground, feeling slightly foolish, when, on lifting his hand, he saw it, the wood of life tree. Raising himself to his knees and crawled toward it, and with a mighty thwack cut a wedge out of the bark with his machete. The resinous gum began oozing from the tree's wound. Flambe cupped his hand beneath the opening and caught the drippings of his palm. When he had enough, he sprang to his feet and sprinted back through the forest to Marie. The donkey had wandered away in her delirium. Marie was sure she had been abandoned by Flambe. When she opened her eyes, the dazzling sun overhead blinded her. The sunbeams sparkled and danced, and Marie recalled a time in her life when she had not thought of in many years. She was 4 years old. A flashback. She was 4 years old and living with the family on a farm in Devonshire. I guess that's in England. She could not recall who the people were, nor whether they were related to her. She remembered they had been kind, and there had been a celebration in honor of her 4th birthday. She also remembered their happy faces, full of good wishes, a thickly iced cherry cake, and most of all, the glittering sparklers that had come from the Far East. Oh, how the sparklers lit up the festivities, sprinkling bits of translucent light around the room. Marie thought that she had never seen anything so pretty, and probably never would again. Then the sparklers died out, and with them her happy life on the farm died. Ooh, that's grim. Died out with them. Her happy life on the farm. She was sent to another place, a bad one. Her life had begun ignobly, and had been miraculously resurrected. But now it was dashed to the depths once again. Her existence became a series of workhouses, cruel people, and an unending struggle for enough to eat. Inevitably, she turned to prostitution. So now we know why Marie is a prostitute. And so that is half of chapter 4. We got about 2.5 more pages in chapter 4, and I'll be back to read the rest of chapter